Let me bring in Misty Marris, who's joining us now. So clearly this is still going to be very much a live ball. The defense played video in court of an interview that the judge had given, the judge from the trial, 2 days after the trial was over. I'm going to play a little piece of that so people can see it.
Did the jury get it right?
Yeah, they did. You know why? Because they were picked based upon the law. They listened to the facts. They happened here in this very courtroom, and they got a verdict.
So, Misty, just like baseline, is a judge allowed to do, if a trial is over, if a trial is done, if the jury has finished their work and things are done, even if there is an appeal on the table, is a judge allowed to speak publicly about a case?
Well, it certainly can be a bad idea, Hallie, and in certain jurisdictions it could be banned. But here, that's not the issue. The issue is really what he said. Because there was an open issue with the court, there's a motion for a retrial that judge, Judge Roach, was scheduled to hear. He made a comment specifically about the outcome of the trial. He also made a comment that he thought Carmelo Anthony was a nice young man who committed a crime. So the legal standard for recusal, whether or not he can actually oversee the next steps of this case, like the motion for a retrial, is whether a judge's impartiality might be reasonably questioned by an observer. So the judge who made the determination about taking Roach off the bench said doesn't believe that Roach had any ill intent or did anything wrong or could not be impartial moving forward. But somebody outside looking in could think that this was a tainted process and therefore he cannot oversee anything further in this case.
The prosecution, apparently some of the arguments said, you know, parts of this trial were unprecedented, at least in their view, like witnesses who are younger, so minors, underage. They were supposed to testify, were apparently doxxed before trial. Could that factor into the decision for a potential new trial?
So for a new trial, one of the major arguments the defense is raising is a Sixth Amendment right to a public trial. And they say that Judge Roach imposed a lot of restrictions on the courtroom, not allowing people to be in the courtroom, and that because of those restrictions, Carmelo Anthony's constitutional rights were violated. So the counter argument to that is that there were safety concerns relating to witnesses, the jury, even court staff, even the judge, that justifies limiting who could actually be in the courtroom and that access. But Hallie, I just want to note, when you're talking about the recusal of this judge, it is really a victory for Carmelo Anthony. And I say that because when you're asking for a retrial, you're asking the judge who made the decisions at the time of the trial to say that those decisions were wrong. So a fresh set of eyes, a new judge, definitely a better shot, still an uphill battle.
Will we know tomorrow at this retrial hearing whether or not it's going to happen, or is it like take time afterwards?
So the decision on the retrial actually has to be done within 75 days of the conviction. So the deadline for that is actually on Monday. It's really limited. But Hallie, what I think is going to be interesting about this hearing is that one of the central issues in the case is this gentleman's agreement between the defense and the prosecution. And this relates to whether or not Carmelo Anthony actually exercised his right to testify. Character evidence wasn't supposed to come in. Defense says that prosecution went back on what they had said, that character evidence would not come in during cross-examination. This is a central issue. Who's going to talk about that at a hearing? Well, the prosecution. So is the prosecution going to be taking this stand at the hearing and testifying about those communications? There's a lot of interesting dynamics here that will play out at this hearing. Ultimately, decision about overturning the verdict is another story.
Well, then I guess you and I'm sure, will be chatting again tomorrow. Misty Marris, thank you very much.